What would I do if I owned Thorpe Park? Would I bring in big investments, big improvements, or sort out the long-running issues of Thorpe Park? I just want to thank DigitalDan for the inspiration behind this YouTube video, because he did a similar video, but instead he looked at Alton Towers, which I may do in the future if you will enjoy this video. Thank you, and I do hope you enjoy. First up, we are going to re-track Colossus. Not removing it, not replacing it, fixing it properly. So, Colossus is historically important to Thorpe Park. The first 10 inversion roller coaster in the entire world, and that legacy deserves to be protected. But at the moment, the ride experience just doesn't match the layout's potential. It's rough. The trains are really small, and for a lot of guests, it just overshadows what is a solid ride layout. But with a full retrack and modernised trains, you'd be able to smooth out the ride, improve the comfort, you'd be able to extend its lifespan, and turn it into a generally re-rideable roller coaster. Because obviously some people have good experiences on Colossus and some people have bad experiences on Colossus. We want to keep more good experiences. So what we're planning to do is retrack Colossus and make it a family thrill roller coaster. A bit like the Wave at Drayton Manor Resort, we're going to make Colossus the most thrilling and intense family thrill roller coaster in the UK and maybe even the world. I'd rename it to Colossus the Odyssey, as it keeps the identity of Colossus, but it marks a new chapter. It's the same icon, but just a better experience. We're now going to talk about bringing the park's identity back, the nostalgia, the memories. And I'd like to restore some of the park's original character. This means bringing back the original Infinity logo. The Infinity logo, I loved the Infinity logo better than this. So, we're going to make sure the Infinity logo's back. The Infinity logo literally looks like this. So we're going to make sure that's back as well. And we're also going to reintroduce the Island soundtrack. It's just amazing. Remember, it's just a small change operationally, but theming and atmosphere matter to a theme park to make it revisitable and more natural and beautiful than before. And Thorpe is meant to feel like an escape because it's an island. So, an island experience and strong audio and branding will help to introduce that. And nostalgia alone isn't the goal. It's about giving the park a clear identity again. But now, this next one is going to be very controversial for some people. I've called this one the Merlin question, because if I owned Thorpe Park and Merlin Entertainments, I'd separate from Merlin Entertainments. To be clear, remember, Merlin run major parks like Alton Towers, and they do know how to operate attractions. But large corporate structures often mean tighter budgets and slower decision making. Remember, Thorpe is a thrill-focused park, and it needs consistent reinvestment to stay competitive in the theme park market. So what I would do after I left Merlin Entertainment is save up budget and prioritise more balanced editions, not just thrill editions, but also family too, because there's about 3 family rides in the park, being Storm Surge. Actually, there's probably 4 if you think about it, because you got Storm Surge, Flying Fish, and that, for example, I'd make sure there's stronger maintenance budgets, such as the Colossus retrackers we just talked about, so we can make rides look fresh and new again, especially like Soar as well, because obviously it's a bit head rattly, so I'm going to make sure that's sorted too. And we'll have some long-term planning rather than the short-term cuts that these parks are getting. And importantly, I would completely rethink the ride access pass system. Accessibility, remember, needs to be fair, consistent and respectful. We don't want people misusing this when guests generally need support while in the parks. And this is what the ride access pass is for. And most importantly, it should never make the disabled guests, whether it's a physical issue or a disability issue, you should never feel uncomfortable or questioned by anyone. And this balance is very achievable. It just needs careful management and empathy. So, as a user of the ride access pass myself, I've got a great view of what we could do if we owned Thorpe Park. We could try and sort something out where it's nice and fair, ready for seasons ahead. Now, let's look at the next one. The next one is about small but meaningful renovations. So remember, not everything needs to be that headline attraction like Hyperia. So what I would invest in is refreshed theming, general maintenance upgrades, cleaner presentation, improved wayfinding, and better accessibility infrastructure. So remember, Thorpe isn't the largest park, so the details stand out more, and a well-maintained environment improves the guest experience massively, even without adding a new ride. So Thorpe, if it's always clean, always looking nice, it makes people look like, oh, this is a nice park, it's cleaner than Alton Towers. We get the more people in. That's the entire aim of making sure that these little renovations, refreshed theming, general maintenance upgrades, cleaner presentation, improved wayfinding, and better accessibility infrastructure. And what I mean by better accessibility infrastructure is more accessible routes around the park. The park is very accessible, but I'd like to see if we can make it more accessible. So, like, we'll have to upgrade all the accessible things at the moment, but it will take time. But we would make sure that it's all upgraded and up to standard, if we say. Improved wayfinding. We would give more routes around the park, like signpost more routes than there is now, really. So it's really clear for people who are not the best with wayfinding. Now, let's move on to the next one. So, pricing adjustments then. So, even as a Platinum Pass holder, it's hard to ignore that prices across the park are very high. So, if I owned Thorpe Park, I would review the ticket pricing structure, the parking costs, the food and merchandise pricing, and the hotel rates, because they are too out of order. 68 quid on the day at Alton Towers. That's just wrong. We would try and match Drayton Manor's pricing, because Drayton Manor I find are quite fair. Their ticket structure is quite fair. The parking is £12 for a day. I think it should be £7 for a day, really. Food and merchandise is not worth the price, even when it doesn't taste the best or doesn't look the best. The merchandise is definitely better than the food selection. That's why we would bring more food into the parks, more varied variety. So we'd make sure that there's plenty of selection for everyone of different cultures. We'll celebrate everything we can. And hotel rates. I've never stayed in any of the theme park hotels, but they are extortionate in pricing. We want to bring those down so they're affordable, so families can enjoy their days. We'd also introduce a new pass for the park, a new annual pass for Thorpe Park. I'd never change the name for Thorpe Park. We would keep the annual passes going, but they'll be under, obviously, my company, whatever it would be called. I don't know. But, yes. Lowering these prices, obviously, can increase return visits and overall guest satisfaction. So, obviously, people from poorer backgrounds, I want them to be able to experience thrill, and that is going to be achievable if we lower those prices, and it will literally slightly increase the return visits to the parks, giving us more money than Alton Towers, because they'd come to us because we are making sure we're affordable. So remember, a park people feel comfortable visiting multiple times a year, and it will often outperform one that relies on higher one-off spending. We want to make sure everything is fair at this theme park. Final one coming up. This is the big one. Expanding behind the Swarm. Swarm Island's got a back island to it, and it's very valuable space. And Thorpe can definitely feel very busy at times due to its compact layout. So if we spread attractions further out, it would improve park flow and reduce congestion in the park. So if we had 2 attractions on Swarm Island area, people would be flooded over there. So it's like people in every corner of the park. So it's nice and spread, and then switch, if you get what I mean. So whether it's just a mid-scale thrill coaster or a strong supporting attraction, it would add something back there. So if we added something back there, obviously it would draw crowds to the rear of the park. It would improve queue distribution, and it would strengthen the overall ride lineup at Thorpe Park. So remember, Thorpe is obviously compact, but it definitely has the potential to use its space more strategically.